Hi, I'm Ron Nutter, and welcome to another edition of Tech Bytes with Ron Nutter. In this episode, we're going to talk about enabling SSH on your Raspberry Pi. Now, this video was requested by several of you, the viewers of this channel. So I'm doing this video to help you clear up some of the questions that you had. This content is also available as an Amazon Flash Briefing or podcast. Please go to techbyteswithronnutter.com for more information for any items mentioned in this episode. There are affiliate links in the description. If you click on these links, I will get a small commission, but that won't affect the price that you pay for the item. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please click on subscribe now and enable notifications. If this video helps you or provides value, please click on the like button, thumbs up. Now, here's what we're going to cover. There's 3 ways you can enable SSH on the Raspberry Pi. By default, Raspbian has it disabled, and that's for security purposes. So we're going to talk about setting up a blank SSH file, and I've got a fresh SSD just with the latest image on it. So we'll walk through that. Then we'll talk about Raspi Config, which is another way, and then using some system control commands or systemctl commands. Now that's 3 ways to do it. Now the blank SSH file, if you do that out of the gate, it's going to let you bring this up without having to have a monitor or keyboard on it. The other 2, you're going to have a monitor and keyboard on it to initially get SSH set up. So let's go ahead and move on over. Now here's our trusty Mac Mini that I've been setting this up on. And we've already got the image SD in there. And what I'm going to do, now the way I'm doing, now granted I'm doing this on a Mac, but there should be similar functionality available. I'm going to go through and I'm going to look for, well, here's an issue.txt file. All right, so we'll go up here and I'm going to say, okay, there was a duplicate. Here we go, duplicate. Basically, we're going to make a copy of it. And now to see, it says issue copy, and then with Windows, I know there's got to be something similar. So we will just erase the whole file name and we'll just make it SSH. And we'll press enter. And then the Mac is going to complain a little bit, but you know what? After all, our operating system's supposed to do what we want. And then we'll go up here and we'll just delete all the text in the file. Now, this is the way I've done it. And I've done this probably, 15 or 20 times now. So this is just the easy way. And I could have marked the text and done it all in one fell swoop, but tomato, tomato. So that is one way of doing it. And if you're comfortable with getting into the SD card, and this is a good way to do it, because if you mess it up, what's the worst that can happen? You recreate the image file. So really, that's not going to be a problem. So this is pretty much a very straightforward situation. You do this, you boot it up. There's going to be about 2 reboots during the initial process, and then SSH is enabled by default. So the only thing you have to do is you'll have to go into whatever router you're using at the house and find the MAC address. And that way you'll know what address you need to SSH into. And by default, your credentials should be username, Pi, and then your password will be Raspberry. You probably want to change that, but if this is on your personal network and you're the only one working with it, it's probably not real crucial that you do it immediately, but it would be another good exercise to go through. So the other ones, and I've already been into it, the other part of the equation, I've got to jump around a little bit, unfortunately. You will need some sort of client application. Now, the Mac, you can use the terminal program that's under the utilities folder. And that gives you just a very basic way of getting in. And you have to do a little bit differently because this is pure command line. Now, you can also use PuTTY if you're on Windows. There is something called Royal TSX, which in shareware mode will allow you 10 connections. And it's a decent little app. And now that one is cross-platform for both Mac and Windows. So what we're going to do here, and I'm going to reach over to my system and drop that lower third. So what we're going to do at this point, and I'm going to just recall it up. See, the way you get into it with a terminal program like what comes with a Mac is you'll do SSH space pi @ and the IP address of the Mac. Now, if you have DNS fully running in your house, then you'll just need to know the host name, which should be, I believe it's Raspberry. I haven't looked at the host name for a while, but anyway, you should be able to see it by the IP address. So that, and then you will get the password entered, and when you've done it right, then that's what you will have up and running. Now, I'm going to go over here to my trusty notepad. Now, you will want to, well, here, novel concept. Let me just move the keyboard over here because I got just enough room to do it. Now, if we do Raspi, okay, come on, guys. Raspi Config. Okay, must be runner's root. Okay, well, in this case, it's telling me sudo. I don't use the sudo command as often as I should. So Raspi Config, and then we'll go under here, and interfacing options is, I believe, where we'll want to go. Yes, and then SSH, and by default SSH is, well, actually no, SSH is not enabled this time. Well, oh, no, sorry, it was because I SSH into it. So this is where you would turn it on. And this is another reminder to go ahead and change the password for root. And if you're setting up another account, and the best practice that I try to go through, especially if there may be others getting into it, is setting up the Pi account and just putting a password on it that is horrendously ugly and that I probably won't ever use, and treating that as a backup account, and then creating a normal user account and then using sudo to get into it, because that way you want to do access of least privilege to get in. Now, having done that, now the other option we're going to try, and we're going to say, well, we'll just escape out of this. And there was an error running it. Yeah, you think we just told you to not do it. Okay, and then we'll click finish. Now, the other thing you can do, and we're going to get an error when we do this, is using the system control commands. Now, there's two commands, and I've got this all written down in the description. So we do sudo systemctl enable ssh. Okay, that's one, and I've probably just, no, okay. Okay. I didn't totally shoot myself in the foot. I thought I did. That's why this is on a brand new SSD, or brand new SD card, rather. Then the other one is sudo system control start. If I can type here, start SSH. And obviously I'm not going to press enter on this one, but you see what is involved to get this up and running. So really, it's very straightforward. There's 3 ways to do it, and that's part 1 of the equation. You've got to get the Raspberry Pi set up to enable SSH. Then it's a matter of what client program you use. And you'll want to make sure, if you, most of them, like now PuTTY, if you select Telnet, it automatically fills in the port number. If you select SSH, should fill in port 22 is the one I believe it normally uses. And you can go with defaults. Now, when you really want to get into the security side of things, you can start changing the port numbers and using non-standard ports. And there is a whole variety of discussions, pro and con, whether to do that. So anyway, that's what's involved. So really, we're down to blank SSH file, and it will automatically enable SSH after a couple of reboots. First, it's got to resize the card, and then it's got to initialize everything. So you're talking a couple of minutes. Then you've got Raspi Config, and you saw how we got into that, and we can go through here, and we'll bring it up one. Okay, come on here. One more time. There we go. For some reason, my screen decided to, here we go. So Raspi Config, and if you depending on your emulation, now this is on a Mac. Now I've seen some SSH emulations will strip the color, but you'll still be able to see it. And you just go down to interfacing options, SSH, and you can see there's a whole host of other ways you can get in. So again, not a problem. It's a matter of how you want to do it. There's no right or wrong way. SSH is a good thing to know because you're going to have to become familiar with it. There is a way, and please, folks, don't send me a lot of hate mail. You can turn up Telnet, and I've done this just for the experience of doing it, because if you get into some of the older networking gear, it only supports Telnet. There was a time before SSH existed, or it required a significant change of code that the vendor may have not wanted to do. Anyway, that's a conversation for a whole other day. So we've gone over blank SSH file, Raspi Config, and using the systemctl commands. So that really is... It's that easy to do. So you can get a sense for what has to happen from there. So it's a matter of how you want to do it. The first option you do directly on the SD card. The other two, you will have to have a monitor and keyboard attached to it. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see videos on to the right or my left that are the other videos to look at from the one you just finished watching or other content that I've produced. If this video helps you or provides value, please click on the like button, which is thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please click on that subscribe button and enable notifications. Thank you for those that requested this video be done, because I want to help you get as much enjoyment out of the Raspberry Pi as I have. So we'll see you in the next video, and keep those suggestions coming. I really appreciate it. Take care.